I've just changed one specific golf club in my bag and it's made a world of difference. I'm making way more birdies from over 200 yards. I can't believe it was this simple. The question I have to ask myself is, how forgiving is too forgiving? Let's do this. Guys, if you like the idea of a brand new golf video every single day, then make sure you hit that subscribe button below so you don't miss them, and throw a like on this video if you find it interesting. Today I'm talking about a golf club that I've changed in my bag. We went on a little bit of a golf tour this week down in London for the Next 100 series we are playing, and I've always had the Takomo 301 CB 4-iron in my bag. I've loved it, I've generally got on with it, it's never really caused me any problems, but recently I thought, let's try the 101T 4-iron just as a 4-iron, still have the rest of the set in there, because generally when you want forgiveness, you want it in the longer irons, the lower lofted irons, the clubs which are a little bit more difficult to hit for everybody. And I'd like to say the results weren't that big, the results didn't cause that much of a difference, but I've made more birdies with this 4-iron than I think I've ever made with a 4-iron in my life. I've had 3 2s this week on par 3s over 200 yards. 8th hole, 205 yards. Playing downhill though, so should be able to get on there with a nice 4-iron. Fade.
Straight at it.
Fade. Fade.
Straight at it. Oh, what a bounce.
Well, it must have been close though, but
It's finally got
the par 3 Maestro strikes again with this club. Now, is there something in that? And I've also been hitting good shots into par 5s. As you'll see on screen now, I've been on fire with it really, and I have been looking for a club to hit off the tee that can go over 200 yards that I can really rely on. So with this club, the fact I can do this, hit it a little bit toey, still have that ball flight, still have that sound, and it still work. If I hit another one and I try and hit it a little bit lower, we try and play a little bit of a stinger, I can still do that as well. So I'm not really losing out on anything. This is of course a hollow bodied design. It's very similar to the TaylorMade P770, the Cobra Forge Tech irons, that kind of ilk. I happen to think it looks as good, if not better, than all of those, because it doesn't have too much offset on it. There's a little bit of offset because it is designed for the player who potentially needs it, but the top line's a nice thickness, the blade length is gorgeous, and in the bag, I think it appeals probably a lot more than most golf clubs. Now, the club I have had in the bag, and I spoke about this at length, is the 4-iron in the 301 CB. This obviously looks gorgeous. It is the Next 100 version, so it's the copper finish. These were designed specially for mine and Chris Dennis's Next 100 series, where we take on the Next 100 best golf courses all across the UK and Ireland. Props to Takomo for making these. But is my time up with the standard 4-iron? You see, I never really thought too much about it until I just saw the 101T sat there lonely in the garage. And I've been testing lots of driving irons, but with a driving iron, I often like a steel shaft in there. So I thought, you know what, the 4-iron in the 101T, it's pretty perfect. It's not as big as the 101, it's not quite as cumbersome, and there's nowhere near as much offset. So for me, whose bad shot is left, that's perfect. And I just started hitting it. And I think the first time I hit it, I did this. And then the second time I hit it, this happened. So that's what's kind of led me to this video. I get the 301 CB back out. We're going to test it out here and of course in the studio and see what the real differences are. Is it me in my head, or is there actually a big difference? And how forgiving should you go and me go with our irons, especially the long irons that we're testing today? So first of all, nice normal flight. It does look smaller down at the ball, like if you stood at a 200+ yard hole, I would put a bad swing on that, wouldn't I? And that's not me doing that on purpose, that's what can happen. Now we hit the low one. This one should be easier to hit low. Yeah, certainly easier and more versatile. That one stuck an awful. How does that kick right off a slope like that? Maybe it's just pot luck, but guys, stay tuned and let's find out together which one I'm gonna keep in my bag. So out of interest, guys, as well, these videos are just as much about you as they are about me. I want to know, what are your opinions on forgiving golf clubs? What makes a forgiving golf club? Is it the look, the confidence, inspiration? Is it pure performance? Or is it all of the above? Because I happen to think the 301s, so the CBs and the MBs, are fantastic looking golf clubs. And I wasn't that bothered about changing until I hit those shots. But then is it a honeymoon period with the 101T? Because I have tested them before and I always enjoy the smaller, sleeker, hollow-bodied irons like the PXG 307T. I always forget the name, the T's. And this isn't how I planned this video to go, but it does kind of speak volumes that the 101T irons are nicely in the fairway, and the non-hollow-bodied as forgiving irons, you can see that I'm actually walking through the trees to try and find them. Not even a difficult shot, but just a bad swing. And you see, when it boils down to it with a 4-iron, I often think, well, how often do you really hit it? Should you have a hybrid in there? Should you maybe go 7-wood or even a driving iron? There's so many options now for that area of the bag, but I've always been an iron fan. So looking at the differences between these two clubs, you probably would err towards the side of caution, the side of forgiveness, the side of sanity, you could say. I'm going to keep showing you those ball flights because one of them was nearly a hole-in-one with a 4-iron. I have had a hole-in-one with a 4-iron before, funnily enough, at Wakefield Golf Club in the Wakefield Trinity Rugby League Golf Day with Eddie and Jai. Sorry, Jai. This is the 101. It doesn't look as sexy because it's not copper, but apart from that, it's doing the damage. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I don't even know if that's a good swing, but it's up there and it's 20 feet away from the flag. Now, can we recreate that with the 301 CB? Of course we can. Can we do it 9 times out of 20? I was going to say 10, but no one's hitting that shot 9 times out of 10. And the big thing that's got me thinking is the 101T feels good. Usually hollow body irons don't feel that good. But they're carbon copies, and that makes me feel a little bit better about my golfing ability. I say carbon copies. If you have a look, they're both up there, but guess which one the closer one is, and guess which one you'll be more likely to 3-putt. And these are the things you have to think about when choosing what goes in your bag. And you see, these could be the margins we're talking about, but if they are, that's 20 feet and that's 35 feet. You're not making 2 from here. I mean, you're probably not from here, but there's every chance you might give it a go with a size 10. And you see, the really interesting thing about this test, especially now we're going to talk numbers, is just how different really are these clubs. How much technology is in the 101T and how little technology is in the 301 CB. So we'll kick things off with the club of the hour, the 101T, and we're going to look at a couple of different things regards to numbers and of course accuracy. But that's pretty much what I've been seeing. A lovely big high ball flight, fading back to the centre, pitching over 200 yards and releasing out nicely. I do start to think that realistically we look at the club head speed, we look at the ball speed, and of course look at the spin rate at around 3,500. It's quite a low spin rate, but then for a hollow bodied iron, it's generally what you would expect. I mean, that feels as good as anything you're ever going to test, it really does. But consistency-wise, it's pitching bang next to the other one, 205 yards, 220 total, spinning at 3,338 to be precise. We're starting to see exactly why I wanted to do this test, because even that one, which is a miss hit, I thought that one was going to go right. It's going to be a little bit shorter, but it's still pitching 192 and releasing up to 200 yards. So it's not how good you're good, it's how bad you're bad. That one spun up at over 4,000 because it just wasn't the best strike. But I do think if I put a really good, hopefully what this will be, swing on them, it just delivers time after time after time. Let's have a look at the 301 CB and let's have a look at the differences, because they don't look that different down at the ball. The 101T is sleeker than maybe the 101 or a P790 to put it in perspective, but the 301 CB is exactly that, a CB. I've hit that really bottomy. How much drop off is there? That one's pitched 176. Didn't feel like a terrible swing, but ball speeds dropped dramatically by 10 miles an hour because I've not struck it very well. If we get a good CB, like that one. It certainly feels better. You can see in the ball flight, it's a lovely ball flight. It's up there with the other ones. It's 205, 220 total, bang smack in the centre. So it still performs for me, but what I'm starting to see, especially out on the golf course, and I'm pleased the numbers are backing it up, is the forgiveness maybe is required when you're under a bit of pressure on that long par 3 more than anything. That's interesting because I've not quite caught that one either. Nice high launch, but that's up there. 203 carry. Spin will be more, spinning at 4.4 as opposed to 3.5. But ball speed dropped again down there. Guys, which one would you have in the bag? Comment below and let me know. That's one of the best golf swings I've ever put on it. And it's really starting to put the cat amongst the pigeons now. 202, 213 total. I think I'm just more confused now than ever. And the funny thing with the numbers there is, the one thing that might worry you is potentially the difference between the 4-iron and your 5-iron, the gap in there, because the 101T clearly goes a little bit further, but it's the forgiveness I'm more bothered about. It's not the distance, it's not having that, oh, I can hit my 4-iron 230 instead of 220, because realistically, it doesn't make a lot of difference that if you know how far it goes. They both feel great, they both look great in their own way. The big question left, and I've left this till last because I honestly think you guys might think this as well. Does it matter if your irons are matching? Does it matter if you've got a matching set of irons? So what would happen here if I put the 101T in the bag is I would have MBs in the short irons, in the 301s, CBs 6-iron and 5-iron, and then a 101T 4-iron. Is that off-putting? Is that an issue? For me, it's probably not, to be honest. It's probably just put in the bag what works the best and what you're happy with. But then there's a soft spot for the CB in the set. Now this is very interesting because that might look like a nice ball flight, but I've hit that toey and I want to check the drop off. It's bang on the centre line, so I'm not worried about dispersion, but if we can hit one with the 101T, that wasn't very good either. This could be the one where we decide. Let's have a look. This could be the shot that helps us decide. You see, you might think it's a little bit depressing choosing your clubs on the bad shots, but I don't see it as depressing, I see it as logical when you hit as many bad shots that I do. And that hasn't really helped me at all because the CB is bang on the centre. Yes, it's lost a little bit of distance. The 101T is a little bit further up, but of course, it's more offline. Guys, comment below, what would you do? Are you considering changing your top end of the bag? And if you are, let me know what you are doing. I'll see you all at the same time tomorrow. Goodbye.